This is day 386 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. If you'd like to sponsor our coming share or more of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, please contact me directly. It'd be very greatly appreciated. Today we're doing Simon Reish Samachay, Sif Zayin through Reish Samachay, Sif Yud Beis. Sif Zayin. Ein osim klita tachas haner b'Shabbos. You can't um, put a vessel under the candle of Shabbos in order to gather up the oil with drips in the candle. Because you are um, negating the usage of the kli, literally negating the kli from its preparation. In other words, not only take something which was a keli at the beginning of Shabbos, and negate its use by making it designated for the purpose of holding muktzah, which just like the muktzah itself, the keli would not be able now to be carried. Klamar meaning shekoyim zayosa hakeli roy letilta. Before this, the vessel was suitable to be carried. Shabbos will say muktzah. Now on Shabbos you're making muktzah. Also for tilta. Now let's carry it. Rashi appears b'Shabbos Tavik is soiser. I'm sure Rashi says that the reason for that is because when you do that to a kli, it's as if you're destroying it on Shabbos. With having Klamar meaning kamachin yochel leitla mikoma, since you cannot take it from its place. Havik is soiser meaning hakeli is as if you are destroying the construction of the vessel. But Taisus wrote the exact opposite. That's like building. Klomar meaning since you cannot move it from its place afterwards, have a kibinyan hakabulot. It's like construction that now this has become static and so almost as if it is um, connected to the ground. But you're allowed to put the keli down in that place before Shabbos begins. Also started with Shabbos. But even though you're allowed to put the keli there from before Shabbos begins, the oil which falls into the keli you cannot use on Shabbos. The oil has been set aside for the person in the mitzvah for the entire Shabbos. It's like you can't use the decorations of a sukkah for the 7 days of sukkahs because they're hooked to a mitzvah. The vessel also becomes forbidden to move in nation outside because it becomes a base for the oil. So it's a basis davar asur. But if the oil didn't fall into the vessel, no oil fell, whatever, not enough spilled over, then it should spill into the vessel. Muteres betilta, you're allowed to actually move the keli on Shabbos. The Mishabura says name Elia Rabbah that oil dripped into the vessel before Shabbos began, even if afterwards. Even if afterwards the oil spilled out, it's still muktzah. I'm not sure I understand why it should muktzah the drip before Shabbos began. But I guess it's a huksa mitzvah. So therefore it's huksa mitzvah. So therefore it doesn't matter. In fact, the drip before Shabbos, it's still huksa mitzvah. Until after the time of the mitzvah is over, which is until after Shabbos. I think that's what he means. Back to Arukh HaShulchan. It's not because he thought to put it that it should serve as a base for the prohibited oil, and it's a base of davar aser. Machshava ba'alma enoklum. In other words, it's the thought is not enough unless it's actual oil that fell in. There's no hasmana milsa, I guess, for the purpose of muktzah. Even though it would seem to be that you now have removed the vessel from your intents and should be like Tainim will grow, has to go Timukim Grogros, like raisins or figs that you leave out to dry, that you push them aside mentally Erev Shabbos Ben Shmosh, and then they remain also for all of Shabbos. But so here too, it should be the same thing. You designate, set aside the oil, you reject it for all of Shabbos. I mean, look, no, it's not quite the same thing because you only designate for the purpose of the oil. It's as if you explicitly made a condition. He's not making muktzah unless oil falls into it. Ches. Yesh ma'amidim keli tachas haner shel Shabbos shel chel b'Shabbos. those people who put a vessel underneath a candle uh, of wax or of tallow on Shabbos, they should people on there in order that if the candle falls, so people shulchan, it shouldn't fall on the table or it's on the ground, but that's a straight and make a fire. People say, okay, it should fall into the vessel. Or many people lie down a tray for this reason. The about the clean me'echona is not considered to be negating the vessel from its purpose. Because there, we talk a keli they tilt them inside because you can, if the candle happens to fall, it's not about the clean me'echona because you can move the candle by using your elbow or something to remove it from the tray or from the vessel. I was shemen loy in but you won't do it with oil because the whole point is to save the oil. Shatibo shemen karka because then the oil fall on the ground, which you can't be up to your shemen because that's going to cause the oil to be lost. But if it's a candle, it's not going to be lost by this by it falling on the ground. L'chein lo abe akli basis dover asur. That said, the vessel does not become a basis dover asur. But if you man the three labels siman shin test, if you near nasa basis dover asur, even according to the opinion which holds siman shin test, that when you put something down deliberately, it becomes the basis dover asur. I feel like so Shabbos. If you did not have in mind to be there for Shabbos, Zekshel ben Hashmoshos, that's when ben Hashmoshos there was actually some substance of Isser on the vessel. That means we say Migudis Katzai ben Hashmoshos since it is set aside and rejected for ben Hashmoshos. It's rejected for the entire day. But if it happens after ben Hashmoshos, because here the candle if it falls, it's going to fall after Shabbos begins on that tray or into that plate, into that vessel. Everybody agrees it's not called the buses. But for the they ain't saying down cloud lemeniach. It's not the same at all. Like somebody who deliberately put something usher on top of a vessel. That's when you want specifically for the muktzah to be inside that keli. But here it's like a muktzah circular gufa. You don't want it to be inside the keli. You just don't want to make a fire, right? You don't want the candle to fall at all. But if it does fall, leaving the vessel there, so tipo shouldn't fall on the table on the ground. The answer to the minach is not at all like somebody deliberately put something usher into a vessel. But oil which drips. Well, there, of course, that's your whole point ahead of time. That oil should drip and oil will drip, and you're saving the oil with that vessel. Excuse me. As a brackets, Ayin Tes Yon V'Sof Kira V'Shkasav Dimitive Rashi. I say Tes Yon V'Sof Kira Shkasav Dimitive Rashi. Masha Gam Mibod Yom En Lechavchil Chli Tachas Hashem. Sounds from the Rashi that in Shabbos Tav Mem Beis that you should not deliberately leave the keli to catch the oil even from Erev Shabbos. Or you might actually carry the keli on Shabbos because of the oil which you want to save. And so negative to Shulchan is against the Shulchan, which allow you to put the vessel there before Shabbos begins. That's a new gezerah of the Taisus Yontif, evidently. Now Taisus goes to Dam Beis, on the base, the Amasu is new, it's new. The Mutter Gan Chatchil, Taisus explicitly is not such a thing. The Rashi ain't Duke, the Rashi is no inference. The Lashon Mishnah Kai is going in language of the Mishnah. Ayin Sham Beduk, see there, and you'll note that that is in fact the case. Test. But even with an oil candle, which is why you can't put a vessel next to it because you're nullifying that keli, like we explained. But to cause a vessel to lose its preparation, that's okay. Keep going. Such as you put a vessel on from before Shabbos begins on the table. Then after the meal, you remove the table from its spot. So now the candle, which is hanging evidently from a hook in the ceiling, that's in all the Ekesha households, if you see in the Moritz Oppenheim pictures, and I assume all over Europe and other places is like that as well. The Shabbos candles would be like a chandelier, actually not candelabra, chandelier hanging from the ceiling. So it's over the table, and then you move the table, and lo and behold, there's a keli underneath it, which now is under the chandelier. You polish it with a keli, and the oil will spill into the vessel. So So on Shabbos, you cause the vessel to lose its status. I think there's a shulchan by moving the table. That's okay. Gram bitul kli me'echono is okay. It's like a gram in the rabbanon anyway. I feel gram kibu kazeh also commercial bar, even if to extinguish a fire that way by indirectly is prohibited. Nevertheless, gram bitul kli me'echono to cause the vessel to lose its status, that is mutter. Came this work rabbanon because it's about only in this rabbanon. Shabbos with Mikel is even on Shabbos started to put oil on your vessel underneath the oil. Such as where the keli already has something in it, which is mutter and which has some significance. And you also can remove that object from the vessel. Because in that case, even if oil drips into the vessel, mutter you have to move the vessel. Kidim basis davar asa davar mutter. Because the vessel now is only a base for something which is also and something which is mutter. She's bar sof siman shin yud, where it's already clarified. Name is a muktzah, it's not muktzah, mutter tells you allowed to move it. Below having a vata kli mechon, so it's now a vata kli mechon, you're allowed to move it. It's not going to be negated there. But the side factor which you could actually spill out of the vessel, also then the fact that you didn't spill out doesn't make it mutter because it doesn't have to eat this mutter. So therefore it's primarily mevata kli mechon. Shom, like we wrote there in Siman Shin Yud. Yud Kasser Rabbeinu Ramah B'Sib Gimel. The Ramah writes, "She'osli Gavaneh Doilek Shudol totally allowed, not allowed to touch a candle which is burning when it is dangling from a chandelier, evidently. I'll be shaying matauto even though you're not carrying it. We know muktzah is not also to touch. It's something which years ago, when I was a young lad, I saw in a Marcus Lehman book, I forget which one, that he had, one of the issue was whether the child, well, the from mother and the no longer Orthodox father was going to touch the candlesticks on the table, not touch the candlesticks on the table, and the father wanted to touch, and the mother didn't want to touch. I don't remember the exact details, and my child's going to make the whole thing up, but I remember that the way I remember it is that he touched the candlestick and it's considered to be the terrible phenomenon which led eventually to his going himself off the derech. But in fact, touching muktzah is not also. It's only moving muktzah which is also. The only issue of still touching something muktzah is when it's not something stable. And when as a result of your touching it, it's actually going to move. But if it was not going to move at all, there's no prohibition in touching muktzah per se. So this is what he's talking about here. Now, if it's hanging, right, it's dangling on a chandelier on a hook, that's also to touch. You come also, but it's not exas, meaning in the giyasa be because it might come to move from his as a result of his touch, and that way it's going to be inclining oil towards the wick. That's going to quote from the Ramah. So it comes out of this Ramah, the kama, the muktzah, mutter b'negia ba'ama. That which you're allowed to touch, k'mosh k'tam b'siman shin yud. Hanashim, I feel he's not in the gear. That's because even if it moves by touching, lace them up. It's not a problem. See, pen is not need v'yateh. Here it says that the problem is it might move, and as a result, the wick is going to absorb the oil quicker, or whatever the case may be. It sounds like from here, the Arukh HaShulchan shemayata shem havikavora, that the issue is only that you might come to incline the oil towards the wick, I guess, not the wick towards the oil, that which is like ignition. But movement itself is not a prohibition. But it says can't say movement is not an issue. Do that small custom simon shin chesim. Gimel the nidnud also to move, to cause muktzah to shake, to move is also. Can you really lead a gun? Cover us again. So it says Arukh HaShulchan, I think therefore that's the Roman here too. Mashasiyim yateh, that which he added on. How you're going to incline the oil towards the wick. We made the below the Elon Shem because if that were the case, we wouldn't have to assume that's going to move just by touching it. It's only because the tziruf, it might move and it might then cause the oil to get closer to the wick. That is a problem here. Below down the base gimel, the base of because otherwise it's not like an egg. Where an egg, if you touch it, it's wobbly. It's definitely going to move, right? But here, it's not necessarily going to move. It's not necessarily wobbly, even though it's dangling like a chandelier. But because of the problem that you might come to incline the oil towards the wick, is the Raisa, which is the Torah prohibition of ignition. Then also by the dangling candle, we don't let you touch it. So if it's not going to be burning, it wouldn't be a problem to touch it. But if something will definitely get wobble, also that's forbidden. Come over like the egg. Where you say you shouldn't touch it, come also they till too. It's by movement, by neither which is the wobbling. Which by appears Rabbein Ramad Bar Bereish Simon Tov Kuvik Gimel. I can explain much because of Chaber Peitz of B'Chui. Vos Liga Bakas said the Hainu without line Trump. It's not the touching, it's the movement, but the wobbling is like moving when it's definitely going to wobble. That's so explained over there as well. Yesh because of those say that Rabbein says to see later also Gam and Giba Almad Tzarch Dabar also. And that those say that even touching something is also if it's for also purposes. The Gam Akshur Rabbein Ramah also has on the Ramah Shesait says Atzmo. Now just himself here it sounds like the problem is Shemiyata and their problem is Shemi and not Nate. So based on what we said, there is no contradiction in Machlekes because well, it depends on how likely it is to actually wobble. Okay, he brings up my brackets here. That's not important for our purpose. That's talking about that there is a davar heter that you want to remove, and then tiltum outside is permissible. Brings up name was the word that even if you're touching mamish, the dangling chandelier, it's called tiltum outside, and it's mutter. So he obviously is very makel over here because he holds the whole thing with clouds tiltum outside. I'm not sure if it does be on the issue Shemiyata, but I guess the Nidnun Isser is not considered to be a problem because it's only Min Hatzad, indirect, and not the Kedarko, not direct. Okay, now 100% clear. Yurav. Avol Nosnim Kli Tachas Haner. You could have been vessel under the candle with Kabbalah Tzaitzas to get to catch sparks. Famous that beat the Kli Mechon is not considered to be negating the vessel. They shouldn't be mamish because sparks have no substance. Mamers Kabin, they extinguish very quickly. But you can you it's as if they're not there. Yeah, Mutzah Talta Kli Mechon, and then you can move the vessel like you did previously. The Taf can eat sites, it's only sparks. I will tell you to talk of Pchamim. She blew me on there, but if you have in mind that coal which falls in the candle should fall inside, also that's a bit of mamish, coal has substance. The Evshel Talta K won't be able to move the vessel. V'havagav Yichol now rain high, you can spill them out. Come also, nevertheless, it's also Danir Achar Shehichbu. So it says this money because when are you going to be able to shake them after they get extinguished? That sometimes lapses. Talks about about the but trying to teach in the time that those actual substantial pieces of wick charcoal fall in and they get extinguished, then during that time the kli is negated. Okay, low diamond therefore it's not like the wax candle. Which you're allowed above. Then you can shake the wax candle out immediately. But burning coals, when you're going to shake them out, definitely going to get somewhat extinguished. The candle's either on or off. Coals are various degrees of on or off. You'd base. Ain't no thing clean, mine takas and air sheep blue, but you don't put a vessel with water under the candles that the sparks are from the water, but feeling air Shabbos even from before Shabbos begins. Well, I believe Shabbos also goes, that's saying it's also on Shabbos, Avagav the ground kibui mutter. Even though you're allowed to cause something to become extinguished on Shabbos, the Shabbos, perhaps say when there's going to be a loss, because Shabbos to Mishin Lamadal. The Mutzah can't kill me mind near days later. Allowed to put vessels with water in front of a fire. She's Bakwa Kalim, that the vessels should burst. So a mind so lake in the water will extinguish the fire. Kain Tawas Shochas Ba'ur, and so to the Tawas, on which on one side there's a fire. Mutzah is on mind inside Achi, put water on the other side. In consequence, and that causes to get extinguished, it causes to get extinguished. We shouldn't have a ground keyboard because it's only causing to become extinguished. But here, Lumikre ground keyboard, it's not called causing the extinguishing. And the keyboard, it's making the extinguishing take place quicker. Because there's no gap between the fire and the water, except for the airspace. And the water is actually exactly underneath the sparks. There, where ground key was mutters, where there's a hefsek, the talus is burning on the side, you put water on the other side, and there's dry talus in the middle, right? that's okay. But if there's no hefsek, that's no good. Same thing with the vessels. You put the water in the vessels here. The vessels are the hefsek until fire comes, and that expose the vessels. It's going to take a while. Mr. says, named Eliyah Rabbah, when there's a danger of a fire, of course, you're allowed to put a vessel full of water to receive the sparks. The Rebbe's not sure about this. No, but Sarkar's Lake, it seems like saying not to be so unsure about, but he says that you can lenient to put him there, B'shas Chak, to put the vessel with water there by a cutlet. Interesting. Okay, back to Arukh HaShulchan. Ve'od yesh l'chus shema yakbia hakli beis in the fields and itotzes. They're also afraid that you might lift up the vessel while the sparks are flowing there, and then you're extinguishing the sparks. Can also be the Erev Shabbos. That's also you put there even on Erev Shabbos. So dam b'chol malachas with the Erev Shabbos. It's like a malachas which are midnight Erev Shabbos. The Gzeira here is a decree. Atu Shabbos. They might go do on Shabbos. Mishum de lo mechse l'inshe iser kuli high. Because doesn't see people so also to put the vessel under the sparks. Okay, therefore they have to be more stringent and say it's also even on Erev Shabbos.